Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast to the protection against heavy rain and flooding, by Dr. Flood, Andreas Klippe.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Flood Protection Secrets. My name is Andreas Klippe, and today I want to talk to architects. I love architects. I'm only an engineer, but the architects, they create the beauty of the world. Oh, isn't that nice? It's very, very, very nice and exciting for me to see all this these nice constructions they have done. But they, of course, cannot do that alone. They always also need the architects. And here I come, and here I am. And today I want to tell a story specially made for the architects in the Philippines, but of course also for architects staying and working in other countries in the world. But this example comes from the Philippines. So it's for these architects. I want to share the story of the Typhoon Ulysses, and the international name is Walco, coming from a Vietnamese name. And this Typhoon Ulysses hit Luzon, that is the main island of the three main regions in the Philippines. Hit Luzon in mid-November 2020. Water didn't ask for permission before flooding buildings. Today, let me share the story about it. A Filipino architect, let's call him Architect Santos, designed a sleek new commercial building in Quezon City. Budget was tight, as usual. And his plans included clear drainage, raised entryways, and provisions for flood barriers at the parking and service entrances, at least. But during construction, the contractor decided to save money by ignoring these details. They skipped the waterproofing, they installed cheaper drainage grates, and they removed the flood barrier provision, claiming, "It never floods here." Fast forward to the rainy season. A sudden monsoon combined with a blocked street drain. Within 30 minutes, water flooded the parking area and seeped into the ground floor shops. Tenants lost merchandise, the building's reputation was damaged. The client called Architect Santos. "Why didn't your design protect us?" That is what the client asked. And it wasn't his fault, but he felt the blame. His name was on the plans. And retrofitting flood protection after a disaster, it's always 3 to 5 times more expensive than integrating it earlier. As an architect in the Philippines, you face tropical rains, typhoons, and urban flooding. It's not if, but when your designs will be tested by water. Early flood protection design means what? There are 3 points. Aligns your work with climate resilient building standards. Okay, that sounds easy. Keeps costs low by incorporating drainage, elevations, and flood barriers during construction. How often are we called when the construction is done already? And I always ask the people, why didn't you call me before you started with a construction? Why didn't you show me the plans, and why didn't we discuss, and why didn't you ask us to do the design instead that you do it, and you did it, sorry to say, in a wrong way? And then the contractor was changing it again, and it became worse and worse. So because of they want to keep the costs low, but at the end it becomes more expensive. A lot of more expenses that are waiting to clean up the mess, repair the damages, and not to talk about the business loss of business opportunities. And the third point for an early flood protection design is it saves your client from damage claims, repairs, and angry tenants. So it aligns your work with climate resilient building standards. That is number 1. It keeps the costs low when you do that before, because when you do that later, it's more expensive. And it saves your clients from damage claims, repairs, and angry tenants. Why contractors cut corners? You design responsibly, but contractors often skip protective measures to save costs and win bids. The result? Cheap drainage systems that clog, no flood barriers leaving openings vulnerable, waterproofing skipped, risking future leaks. That's exactly the thing, because flood protection for the contractors has not the value like other things. I mean, have you ever seen a building and then, for instance, in the 15th floor, there every second window was not installed because the contractor wanted to cut costs? You've never seen that. But for flood protection, it's the case. There are entrances that don't have any protection. Or even all entrances don't have protection because somebody said, it doesn't rain so much and it's only a little bit. It doesn't work like that, my dear friends. There is not a little bit pregnant. It is 0 or 1. There's nothing in between. That is what is true for flood protection as well and for disasters. But the thing is, you as an architect, you seldom has influence on the contractor. Sometimes you have because you supervise the outcome, but that depends on the end client and the end customer, whether the end customer is interested to get a good quality or not. Because if you make it up to the contractor to decide on his own about the quality, then don't wonder when the quality later is and the standard is very low. So protect your design, you as an architect, your design integrity by specifying tested flood barriers. I always highlight the word tested. In some other podcast episodes, I will talk about that. I talked about it and I will always continue to talk about it. So tested certified flood barriers, drainage systems and clear construction instructions. So specify it, but don't only mention flood barrier. That is not enough. You also don't mention window for the 15th floor. You specify it. You tell exactly what kind of window you want to have. One layer of glass, 2, 3. The color, is it getting dark with more sunlight, like what we can see in the airplanes nowadays, and things like that. So you specify it. And give clear construction instructions. Insist on quality because your name is at stake. And to be honest, very often I observe entrances that do not permit, that do not allow an easy installation of flood barriers because the design is not made in such a way. Or even somebody changed it later on. So that is the truth. One of my friends is an architect, very popular one, and he said to me one time, Andreas, we as architects, we don't know much about flood protection barriers, but we know about the beauty of a building. And when it comes to the safety, you need very clear standards. The last part I want to talk about, part number one was why early planning matters, and I gave you these 3 advantages for an early flood protection design. Part 2 was about why contractors cut corners and cut costs, and number 3 is protecting your reputation. I mean, you as an architect, your reputation is your income at the end of the day. Your signature is on a building, and that should mean safety, quality, and resilience. Imagine telling your client, this building is flood resilient. Your investment is protected. Your tenants and customers are safe. I mean, normally that is standard. That is a no-brainer normally. But this building is flood resilient was never mentioned before because nobody is really interested in this fact. But the people should be and should become interested in it. And not only that, the investment is protected. That's the power of integrating flood protection early. And I only hope that you, as an architect, I started my this episode with a small story about the Typhoon Ulysses that hit Luzon in the Philippines in mid-November 2020. It was the second worst typhoon hitting Metro Manila. And then I told the story about the Filipino architect Santos, who was designing a commercial building in Quezon City. So if you think you are in a similar situation and you think flood protection is worse to integrate in times of increasing dangers, in times of climate change that is getting worse and worse, then I have a golden nugget for you at the end of this episode of Flood Protection Secrets. Here it comes, a small golden nugget only for you, the architects. Retrofitting flood protection costs 3 to 5 times more than including it in the design and construction phase. If you want to keep your projects on budget, protect your clients, and safeguard your reputation, plan flood protection from day one. That is and that was my golden nugget for today. And if you found this episode valuable, subscribe to Flood Protection Secrets on your podcast app now. We share real stories, practical steps, and expert insights to help you build flood-resilient projects in the Philippines and beyond, worldwide. Don't let your next flood protection project become the next flood story. Stay safe and flood-free. I wish and hope for you that you make the right decisions when it comes to your personal flood protection. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to this podcast channel if you haven't already. Now it only remains for me to wish you a good day. Do something with it. Maybe until the next podcast episode. I would be very happy. See you then. As always, stay safe and flood-free. Your Andreas Klippe and the whole Flood Experts team.
That's it again with the new episode of Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast by Dr. Flood Andreas Klippe, German engineer, book author, and head of the Flood Experts. What can Dr. Flood Andreas Klippe protect for you? Anytime? Worldwide? Contact us or just click through to www.floodexperts.de/bonus. Detailed engineering, German quality, safe. Flood Protection Secrets, the secrets you'll want to unfold.
Don't forget, you're only one flood barrier away.
Subscribe to the season, and you'll never be late for an episode.